Well as taking your calls, comments, questions this morning, we've been out on the streets of Bracknell asking about the issues you'd like to hear raised in this debate this morning. And this is the one that was top of the pile, actually. It's the thing we've been talking about so far this morning, and it's about housing and Bracknell Town Centre.
My name is Maggie, and I just want to know when we're going to get something done to this town. If I need anything desperate, I don't shop here anymore. I used to. I've been here 40 years. And I don't shop here anymore, I go elsewhere.
My name's James, and I'd like to know what's happening with the plans to rebuild Bracknell in the future. And if there's going to be any new council houses, as there's a few people in Bracknell and the surrounding areas that would like a new house.
OK, let's come on to these questions now. We'll start with John Pearsackie, the Labour candidate on this. We've been talking about the regeneration of Bracknell Town Centre since the early 14th century, and it still hasn't been done. Help me with what will happen and what you'll do if you become the town's MP.
I think this goes back to 1998, and a decision was taken then in terms of which developer to follow. It was badly handled by the Conservative Council at the time. They embarked on a process which was almost bound to fail at the inspectors, which it did. It was too big, it was not council-led, it was developer-led. That put us back a number of years. One of the things which people said at the time was that they would like to see the developers work together. And in fact, that is what happened in the end. We actually got a consortium, Bracknell Regeneration Trust.
So do you believe it's been delayed by the recession?
Oh yes, there's no question. We were very, very close to the town centre being up and running, and in '98, and the recession kicked in, and that really certainly has put it back. It will happen. It has been delayed. Had we made the right decisions back in '98, I think we would have been well on the way by now.
Philip Lee, the Tory candidate. John says it's down to your party that we don't have a proper town centre in Bracknell.
Yeah, but he would say that. It's an ongoing project. I mean, there were 24 town development projects in the pipeline at the start of this recession. There are now only 4 in this country, and one of them is Bracknell. It's a hugely ambitious project. There's some significant investment from the private partners in the scheme. They're going to want a return on their investment, and this development will happen. But what we don't want is a development to happen which then becomes a white elephant, that we've invested all this time, effort and money, and then it doesn't actually, it's not a success. This has to go hand in hand with economic recovery.
OK, Ray Erica for the Lib Dems. Are you frustrated by the lack of progress in the town centre in Bracknell?
Well, I'm frustrated, but I'm not surprised, because, as John said, the Conservative Council have dithered over this project for a number of years. In fact, they've got very little control over it now because it's in developers' hands, and if those developers can't afford it, or they don't see a return, as Philip has said, then clearly it's not going to happen. We've been told it's now going to be demand-led. Does that mean one shop at a time, or what? You know, I think the people of Bracknell Forest deserve better than this, and I think had they gone for a less ambitious scheme in the first place, this could have been all up and running 5 years ago. But now we're stuck with developers who are hamstrung themselves, and I wouldn't be at all surprised if at some time in the future they handed over responsibility to someone else. The council has no debts, it has no borrowings, and yet it's put nothing into this project except for consultancy fees, which are now running at about £4 million over that period.
As well as hearing from the 3 major parties, we've got Murray Barter from UKIP here in the studio this morning. We've also been talking to Mark Burke, who's the candidate in Bracknell for the British National Party, and this is what he said in answer to the questions we've raised about the town centre and housing.
Council housing is important to the British National Party because, like every other party who believes in it, we would like to see it specifically as close as possible to a rebuilt town centre. People living in the actual town centre is vital. If people are pushed to the outside, again, the problems of being a ghost town at night and in the evenings come into play, and again, the antisocial behaviour takes hold.
Just want to say at this point that we did want the Green Party candidate for Bracknell, David Young, to take part in our programme today, but despite several attempts on our part, we were unable to get him on the air as part of our debate this morning. BBC Radio Berkshire, 9:21. Angela's been on. She wants better buses in Bracknell, and this is something that comes up again and again, actually. People do talk about the bus services in the Bracknell area for all sorts of reasons. She's particularly concerned about routes 158 and 159, and I'm going to ask Ray Erica for the Lib Dems first to comment on bus services in Bracknell. Are they any good?
Right. Well, I don't think they are. We have a very poor bus company, First Direct. I wish we had something like Stagecoach, who provide much better services in the surrounding area. The council have been very reluctant to force the issue. I know they haven't very much influence in these matters, but they haven't pushed it as hard as they should. The company have been allowed to get away with providing poorer and poorer services at ever-rising fares, and I think a change of government might help in this situation to provide more money for public transport, and that's something that the Liberal Democrats
what kind of government would you like to see, Ray, I wonder?
Well, we obviously believe in a greener economy for a start, and we would like to see more people using public transport. The roads are getting more and more congested. People need public transport. Not everyone's got a car. Not everyone can afford a car anymore.
Right. I guess the subtext of my question is your pitch to the people of Bracknell, vote Ray Erica so Nick Clegg can be Prime Minister and the Liberal Democrats can run the country? Is that seriously what you hope and expect the outcome of the election to be?
Well, of course it is. That's what we're in politics to do. You know, you've got to be in it to win it, and I'm very confident we'll do quite well.
Anyone who doesn't believe that's a realistic aim need not vote for you then?
Well, no, I wouldn't say that. If you don't vote for us, you won't get the policies that we want, or you want. So you have to make a decision as to what you regard as the priorities, and we think we've got the right ones.
Philip Lee for the Conservatives. Are bus services in Bracknell any good?
Well, bus services are all private sector, so however much Ray and Liberal Democrats always like to spend money that they haven't got, wants to promise new bus services if he gets elected, he really can't do that because he hasn't got the money to do it, and indeed they're not it's a private company, it's a private sector problem. Now clearly it's not good enough. I think the responsibility of the future Member of Parliament would be to lobby for those services to be improved, but ultimately this is not in the purview of government.
I don't know whether any of you have taken a bus drive from Bracknell to Wexham Park Hospital, where a lot of the constituents have to go for hospital treatment, but it takes about 3 days to get there, certainly. I don't know whether any of you... Have any of you actually done that? Have any of you actually been on a bus from Bracknell to Wexham Park Hospital? Shaking heads all round. I can't say I have either, but one of my reporters on the programme did it once, and it really did take, virtually longer than the whole programme duration to make the journey. John Piasecki for Labour, buses, what do you think?
It links in very much to the question we had before about the town centre development. Certainly the bus service in Bracknell is not adequate as it stands. Had we got the town centre development which was planned back in '98 and didn't come to pass, that would have generated far more activity from the outlying areas into the town centre, and that was one of the big key drivers for the town centre development. I think we will see better bus services when the town centre is developed. One of the other sidelines is something you were talking about earlier on today about Jennings Park, where I actually am involved with the community association over there, and they have that is typical of the sort of issues that come up. Their bus service is not adequate, and it is extremely expensive, and it's costing people £5 and £6 a day just to get the children to school, and that's a pretty hefty amount of money.
Laurie Barter for UKIP. What would a UKIP government do about buses?
Well, I just think, just before we go on to that, I would like to say that I'd be quite happy to represent Bracknell at a £65,000 salary. And with regards to housing regeneration, yes, there has been major problems with the development in terms of the overall size of it, and I also agree with the idea of it not becoming a ghost town as it is now. And like Maidenhead is really at night time, you really want some thriving activity going on throughout the evening as well. Coming on to the infrastructure, buses, like UKIP's policy, are on the roads, on the rail, and public transport. It's very important to invest heavily because our population is growing and our infrastructure is not even keeping pace with where we are now, and we certainly need major investment in all infrastructure areas, certainly including the buses, road, rail.
Let me ask you why you want to be the MP for Bracknell, because it's a difficult time to be going into politics. MPs are held in very low esteem. Whoever is running the country after May the 6th is going to have a blooming difficult job on their hands. So why do you want to be the MP? Philip Lee for the Tories first.
I want to be the next Member of Parliament for Bracknell because I want to serve the people. I have 10 years of professional experience of dealing with, caring for and talking to people, over 45,000 in fact, all in this area. I would think it would be a great honour to have the opportunity to represent Bracknell constituency, to make it to continue for Bracknell to continue to be a great place to live, and hopefully to improve services, health, the transport that Murray refers to, all of those things. I've got very ambitious thoughts about where Bracknell should be in 10, 15, 20 years' time, and I hope to be the Member of Parliament to deliver those.